This is our second official influencer briefing here at the White House. And as you can tell, in the White House, we are fully embracing new media.
Congratulations on 100 incredible days.
You have a young, beautiful baby boy. You're a very high profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully.
Madam Leavitt, congratulations on this endeavor to bring in new media. And can I start by thanking you for including the British?
It's so refreshing to have a press secretary after the last few years who's both intelligent and articulate.
Great job this morning, and as always, you're really crushing it.
Thank you, guys. It's so good to see you. I could go around the room all day.
Thanks, guys. Okay, that was White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, and she has held now multiple press briefings for new media, as she calls it, this week. And unsurprisingly, that new media was mostly made up of very fawning Maga influencers. That was kind of hard to watch. It was very saccharine, which is, it's hard to digest sometimes because it's not real, right? Saccharine is literally saccharine. Instead of asking legitimate journalistic questions, the conferences looked a lot more like what you just saw, like a competition of who could kiss the Trump administration's ass the most. Even Karoline Leavitt's, right? You may as well get her to like you so she calls on you more. So first up, we have MAGA influencer Aaron Wexler, who had this to say.
Thanks so much, Caroline, both for having us and for granting me the first question here.
Sure.
And I can attest to the deportations in Florida. My Uber drivers finally speak English again, so thank you for that.
Okay, and then there was Link Lauren, also known as MAGA Draco Malfoy, who praised Caroline for being a working mom.
One thing I've noticed in the first 100 days is that the White House is crawling with kids. You have a young, beautiful baby boy. There are babies everywhere. There's so many young folks on staff who have kids. But the last 4 years under Joe Biden, parents were really stressed and ravaged. They had to take on 2 or 3 extra jobs. Depression rates were up, suicide rates were up. You're a very high profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully. What advice do you have to young parents out there who are starting their careers, having kids, building families, and trying to find that balance so desperately?
John, before we go on, wasn't the actual Draco Malfoy kind of MAGA Draco Malfoy?
What do you mean?
Wasn't he already
in real life?
No, not real. What does that mean in real life for a fiction?
Oh, I thought you were saying the actor was super MAGA, and I was like, I didn't know that. Oh no, now Harry Potter isn't a thing I can love purely with no reservations, whereas previously I could. Damn it. Sorry, what were you saying?
Never. I was saying that the actual Draco Malfoy, the character Draco Malfoy, is already the MAGA. He's already very right wing.
There was some mudblood stuff, yes.
Yeah, right. So I don't think we need a MAGA. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Right. This one is particularly ridiculous, so that'll be fun for our audience. Conservative influencer Cambry Nelson essentially asked Leavitt for marching orders on how to cover the Trump administration on her social media sites or wherever she's posting.
I'm kind of the nerd when it comes to reporting. I'm not the headline news girl. I'm the nuts and bolts. I'm the policy type nerd. So what direction do you advise kind of me to go into, like the White House files that y'all send out every single day?
Yeah.
Because that's what people are used to when they want to ask me questions. They want to know kind of like the nuts and bolts of everything.
I wish more people in the legacy media were like you and didn't focus on the sensationalist headlines, but actually cared about the facts.
I bet she did wish that the actual journalists were more like those influencers, but probably not for the reasons that she stated. And finally, here is Eric Bolling today slamming Fox News for having an unflattering poll about Trump.
Fox News put out a poll. I'm a statistician. The poll they put out was wildly biased against President Trump. Will Fox sue Fox? Will Trump sue Fox for their methodology in polling?
President's right. These are fake polls. They overpoll Democrats. They underpoll President Trump's supporters. It's a clear-cut case of fake polling, no doubt.
If I may, also misinformation though, right? And maybe as detrimental to the presidency as what CBS has done or the New York Times is doing.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so just a reminder, he's complaining about a poll that was shown on Fox News because he's saying Fox News isn't quite as kind to Donald Trump as he thinks that they should be. So to be fair, some of the questions were legitimate. For example, Rogan O'Hanley, better known as DC Drano, asked Leavitt about the whereabouts of the DOJ files on Jeffrey Epstein. But even those who asked decent questions couched them in praise and provided no pushback when Leavitt failed to give a full answer, because that's not really what they're there for, right? They're not journalists, they're not reporters, they're just social media people. And not to say that people on social media can't be legitimate, they can't be intelligent, they can't be well informed, they can't have good intentions behind the messages that they're putting out there. But these, I would say, are not. I wouldn't group these within that group. John, how do you feel about influencers in the White House?
I think this is utterly pathetic in every single way.
Maybe is it a sign of the times or no?
Sure. I mean, the times suck and this sucks, so I guess they're going hand in hand. Yeah, look, every one of those people is obviously super excited to be there. They're part of a cult and they're trying desperately to get other cult members to give them their money, and they need access to get that. And they're not going to challenge for 1 second Karoline Leavitt or a member of the administration, because then they'll be booted out and that'll be it. They'll have no influence whatsoever. That their career is gone. And so they just trip over themselves to bow down, faces mashed into the floor to show how deferential they are. If the press secretary ends the press briefing by saying, I could go around this room all day, you're not doing, well, I guess you're doing your job. You're not doing what the job should be. They're not supposed to love their experience of you questioning them. You like talking about how awesome it is that you have a kid or whatever, as if Karine Jean-Pierre doesn't have a kid, which she does. As if the idea that like if times were so hard under Biden that everybody's offing themselves, well then surely everything would be better now that the economy's destroyed and we're cruising into recession. So like the blinders on what they're doing, the inability to acknowledge the failures, the comfort that first woman had to be like, oh, I could just badmouth people who speak Spanish, right? This is a racism-free zone. We can just say whatever we want. It's grotesque. It's beneath even a satire of journalism. I hate to see it. It's bad.
Yeah, and it is interesting because I try to be open-minded, not about this specifically, but about the general media landscape, right? And if anybody follows me on social media, I apologize because I really am not active on there. I don't post very often. When I do, it rarely has anything to do with this type of work that I'm doing. It's usually like I painted a wall in my house and here's a picture of it, or I sewed a pillow. So I have a weird relationship with social media already, but I think about it a lot, and I think about what the world was like before social media and what it is now that we have it, right? And there is no, putting the genie back into the lamp at this point, but there used to be firmer parameters around what a job was, right? You didn't get to be a journalist unless you went to J school, right? And you had to, do all these things, and you would go work for a typical media outlet, whether that was a news station or your local newspaper or something like that. And then maybe if you were good enough, you would get up to like the New York Times or the Washington Post, something like that, right? So there were very, clearly delineated paths on how to get into a certain position. But now with the internet, but more specifically with social media, anyone can kind of just like dip their toe into something, for better or for worse, right? Like you have to accept the good with the bad. You have to assume that there are good people out there who are doing good work, because we know there are, right? We see a lot of those people and we celebrate a lot of those people and we're affiliated with a lot of those people. But then there's a lot of noise out there too that you have to filter through. So with the Trump White House inviting these influencers here, I have to step outside of myself and say, am I being biased because I already don't love social media? But also, are they being in a strange way kind of progressive by inviting these people here? But at the same time,
no,
the people that they're inviting, how have they been vetted? Like, are they good? Like the only thing that we can see as far as why these particular people were invited is because they are very, very big Trump fans and they're willing to say and do whatever it is that they need to say and do in order to maintain their relevancy with this administration, because they want to they want to stay in the room, right? They've gotten into the room and they want to stay there. And they know that the quickest way to get disinvited from something like that is to start dogging on Trump. right? And so what are they doing? They're going even further to the right than that was my left, but they're going even further to the right than what we see on Fox News and even what we see on places like Newsmax and OAN and things like that, right? They're saying Fox News, just by showing a poll, is biased against Trump because the poll was not flattering towards him. So as far as expertise goes, I don't see it in that room. Maybe I need to delve more into these people's content before I do see it. But let's be real, I'm not going to do that, right? Because as soon as I'm done with the show, I'm going to go eat dinner and watch something that is mindless on television, right? Like that's what's the reality of what's going to happen. So if this is the future, I don't know what that means.
It's a dark one. Yeah.
It is, yeah. And then now we have to worry about AI also coming into the picture. And it is already, as we're seeing, causing problems. Did you see that interview that Trump did on Fox News? Or it wasn't Fox News. I don't remember where it was. But Trump did an interview and he was asserting that Kilmar Abrego Garcia definitely had MS-13 tattooed on his hand somewhere. And the reporter was like, that was obviously Photoshopped. So it was on ABC News. Yeah. And he was like, no, it was there. I saw it. And like, also, why would somebody have MS-13 tattooed on their knuckles? So anyway, I'm getting off topic, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're being a little bit ridiculous in a way that I love with your, checking yourself to see if you're being biased. These are ridiculous, over the top propagandists. That's all that they are. They're selling propaganda. Like we don't have to know their work. We get to see what their questions are.
Yeah.
I don't know what their history is. So if they come in, they can ask a serious question and then I have to take them seriously. They are not asking to be taken seriously. They're asking to be invited back by bowing down and kissing the feet of a fascist regime. That's what they're doing. And so I will judge them accordingly. I will judge them based on the way they want to be seen. They want to be seen as just core followers, hangers on of the regime. And so that's what they are. And by the way, like, is it being progressive? No, it's being progressive to cast a wider net and bring in alternative sources of media that are still media. Just flooding the room with members of Trump's family and calling them journalists, that's not progressive. So look, would I love to see more outlets, serious journalistic outlets brought in? Yes, but they still have to be journalists. That's what the point of a press briefing is. These people are clowns. They're by design chosen to be clowns, and you don't have to show them any more respect than we already have.
Yeah. You're right. Maybe I am being a little bit too hard on myself, but you have to, right? Like at some point you have to just like check yourself and be like, am I in my own bubble, right? But, I will say that since I have started disengaging with social media, I feel better, and I feel like I have more time. I reorganized my pantry. Who knows, maybe that wouldn't have happened, but it looks great now, so.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.